Hey, what's up, man? We out here in Al Andalusia, what other people call the Florida state or the state of Florida, what we in Almanacanos Estados refer to as the Florida Republic or the Floridian Republic, also referred to by the Old Spanish as the Isle of Flowers. So, or how do you say isle in Spanish?
Isle.
Yeah,
Isle.
the Isla de Flores, right? Right, right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So yeah, so I'm working. Obviously, you see, I'm striving to work on Spanish. So in that, we exist in what was referred to as New
La
Spain,
isla.
La Isla. There you go. We exist in what, or domicile, in what they refer to as, what the old Spaniards referred to as New Spain, and what the so-called New Spaniards referred to as the New World. So there's books you could get on this. There's a book called the Conquest of America as an outgrowth of the discovery of America as an outgrowth as conquest of the Moors, right? Or what I'll do is in the comments when I get the right title, I remember the right title, I'll put it in. Essentially, what that means is that the dominions that we inhabited from ancient times to now apply to us only when we assume the estates of those ancient people to now. So when people look at something like the Pyramid of Giza or something more simple, when people look at something like the Bourne Stone, like there's a place called the Bourne Society, Bourne Society, and they are the society, the Masonic society that quasi-Masonic society that sits on top of what they refer to as the Bourne Stone, which is the inscription in rock by the great old Moor, ancient Moor, Carthaginian Punic Moor named Hanno Bey. Hanno Bey, who was the ancient Carthaginian / Phoenician that brought back this part of the empire, you know what I'm saying, and re-annexed it. And in the stone listed it as a lawful document because back then we wasn't using paper and parchment for treaties and things like that. All that stuff was actually written into stone and put into certain seals and things like that. So when he did this, he annexed that part of this world, right? This so-called, how we were taught, untamed, so-called forested old America, and basically brought it back into union with the old Carthaginian Empire that was in what they refer to now as North Africa over there, which became the so-called states of Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, or whatever, which was in their books created by the remnants of people called the Garamants, right? The people who became the Hausa, the Tuareg, these type of Moors or whatever. So in that, the term Moor, like I said, was the way that you would say American at one point, and then whatever was in front of that described what type of Moor you were. So you had the Traza Moors, you had the Songhay Moors, they had the Almoroccan Moors, you know what I'm saying? But they was all a part and had their own dominions within the whole thing, right? So being that the specific Moors, M-A-U-R Moors, were being the ones that were inheriting the old doctrines, the ancient manifestations of stuff, and then translating it into subgroups, those type of Moors became almost like a race, almost within a race of high priests who were able to disseminate knowledge on a epigenetic generational inheritance level, meaning that they were able to download certain things and being able to re-disseminate it to the people who were now going through a transition. So at one point it was Elam, and then after it was Elam, the Elamites somehow were absorbed into people they referred to as Babels, and then from Babel, Babylonia, and then you understand what I'm saying? And then within that you had certain groups also that predated that, the Sumerians, the Chaldeans, right? All of these are different groups of Moors, i.e. melanin rich people from and descended from the ancient ones who survived the deluge, the flood, the this, the that. So all of these, being that they were part of one imperial dominion, within that you had dominions within that empire. And so once the empire kind of like fractured and went into different things, people within those dominions or aspects of the empire who were either for the new way of doing things, which was colonies and things like that, or they were against it, right? Those of us that was against it, when we start moving between the years of 1492 to, let's say, 1666, those Moors were the first generation now that's being brought up to not know where they really coming from, based upon all of the wars and the prisoners of wars that were being now put into the slavery institution that had always existed, but was not put into a chattel situation until the so-called amalgamated European Moor was able to ingest it and then marginalize what type of slave or product that he was going to promote within his fiefdom, right, to then eventually create different Moors based upon his education to go back and then destroy everybody else. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what they call disinheritance by proxy. That's when they get somebody in your family to basically destroy the family. You know what I'm saying? And then basically split it up so that way they can come in and then divvy up the spoils. So this became a situation. So you had from 1492 to like 1555, you get the first generation of Moors growing up in war camps, Moors being taken from Timbuktu, Moors being taken from Chichen Itza and Tehuantepec and places like that, and then they being switched, and then they elders being killed, and then their children being taught that they didn't come from no empire, they didn't come from nothing like this, they was always Negroes or whatever. But this was the only way that the Caucasoid, or what became the Caucasoid European now, not the original amalgamated European, but now the phenotypically Caucasian European, this is when he now finds his rise to dominance by creating a perpetual slave state to combat the fact that in the entire empire he was a slave in toto. You understand? So you had little pockets of rebellion, like with Napoleon and like the Mameluke dynasties, right? The Janissaries. You had these type of white Christian boys that was brought up in a system where they was Muslimized and then put out to basically fight on behalf of what was remaining of the Moorish Empire, which was now being referred to as the Ottoman Empire or Abyssinia, or old Abyssinian Empire, whatever. So with this destabilization, these people found a way to come up, and in that coming up, it was based upon our disunion and disharmony with each other. So all of that comes into play when you talk about the so-called black man and black woman experience in America, but that part of the story is totally annexed. You have to understand, Alex Haley was exposed as a fraud. You understand? He was taken to court and exposed that whole story was taken from another story, from early an African story from a story called The African. And it was exposed that everything that he talked about in that was fake. But this is the guy that wrote Malcolm X's biography. So he was real with Roots, but he wasn't real with Roots, but he was real with Malcolm's biography. When you read the original notes on that, he said that he saw Fard in the jail with him. But in the movie, you see it's Elijah Muhammad. Peace be upon him. Whatever. I'm saying, though, that the consistency of the story is broken off when you start from Negro history. And Negro history is dependent upon your ignorance of your imperial history as a royal Muslim of the West. Because that's what we are. We have noble titles, the same way the people who call themselves Native Americans do. And that was started by a Jewish guy. The Native American Party started by a Jewish guy named Levin. Look it up. That wasn't even started by the people that they are saying that's out there doing all of that now. That was started to allow Irish people who were being persecuted as well to come into so-called Indian, which was really $5 round the fort Indians, who were now benefiting off of the mass denationalization from Alaska to Chile of the original so-called American Indians, i.e. the Mazas of the West, i.e. the indigenous Moors of North Central South America and the adjoining islands, and the western portion or eastern portion of the empire. They made a pact that they would not refer to them in their original name. So nigger became the blanket term for anybody of nationality. So you could be the most finest, fezzed out, gold, jewels, all of that, speaking mad different languages, all of that. The European colonists are still calling you a savage. But you were the one who got him out the caves in Europe and all that. So this juxtaposition between what they refer to as the white man and the so-called black man is really exacerbated based upon the fact that the black man is still accepting the so-called history that was given to him. When everybody else in the world is moving towards a certain nationality, these other people are moving away from that. So if you don't believe me, get a book called 10 Years of Secret Diplomacy. Get another book called Diplomatic Relations Between the United States and the Barbary Powers. Get another book called Muslims, Christian Slaves, Muslim Masters, Christian Slaves. Get another book called White Cargo. Get some of these books that actually talk about the prehistory before that, because what that does is it puts you into a proper context to understand that what you refer to as a slave was really a prisoner of war, POW. So after the war is done, you're supposed to go back into your country. But right now you have a president who's basically declared war, you know what I'm saying, on this so-called country that prior to him coming in, he was basically jerking off. Like I love this guy, but now he's coming in, he's flipping it up. Because everybody that he's put in office are all corporate shills. So they're all part of big business, big industry. The same people who now represent those who were of the lower orders, the lower Brotherhood of Death, Brotherhood of Orders, who are now unifying behind the fact that now this usurper, because that's what he's kind of seen as, who doesn't have the top clearance because he ain't go to the heavy rituals, right? He now is basically advocating for them. So it's like Revenge of the Nerds, where they done taken over the whole thing, and now he's putting all his corporate people in play. He got the education minister. She don't know nothing about education, but she's a billionaire, so she know how to make money. So what that means is that we're looking at the privatization of most so-called United States services, which is going to totally destabilize the stateless so-called Negro, Black, and Colored who will function under the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment that, according to the Georgia publication, was not even ratified as real. It's not even really valid. They didn't even do it. Georgia's saying they still got to ratify it. They haven't ratified it since 1791. So everything they've been doing has been done under war amendments, meaning executive order. So in a time of war, the so-called stateless people, or the people who are made stateless, are, well, there's a difference. The people, when they invade a country, like with Syria, when they invaded Syria and they started bombing them and doing what they're doing, the Syrian people have Syrian nationality. So they're Syrian, right? They're Syrian nationals. But as Syrian nationals, they are being invaded or attacked. So they go from now being taken out of Syria, and bring them over here. So if they bring them over here, now they go from having their Syrian nationals, though, with refugee status. So now with refugee status, they can claim the refugee status of themselves and anybody else from any other country that their family is being taken from. And now the United States people are the ones that got to pay for all of that. You understand what I'm saying? So all of these things that he's talking about doing, to the point where the people are so upset with the education chick, she's going to schools and the schools are locking her out. You know what I'm saying? To the point where she's now having to get law enforcement to have to force the doors open to get her to go in and do her little fake speech like she's doing something. The other day, 3 days ago, they said that the FBI ran up in there and got rid of 6 of his internal staff because these niggas done lied on they top secret clearance applications. You know what I'm saying? You dig what I'm saying? Do you see what's happening? Like it's not real. Like what he's doing is real, but it's real in the not real sense. So it's so colorable now that they've done things, but to ensure them being able to do it without too much rabble from the blacks, they get rid of the one that's known for building on and screaming on the presidents. That's Kanye. You seen him recently? They got him on his Donnie Darko. This nigga look like he drooling. They got him with the blonde encasement wig. Dyed hair, which shows that he's under the jurisdiction now of this guy. That's why he met him at the White House, which in the beginning, which was Trump Towers. Like I said on the other tape, he's been president since then. He was running business from Trump Towers. So that means from the beginning, he was running United States business out of his corporate offices. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the line between what the government can pay for, all of this, why they have laws like the Fair Trade, things like the Fair Trade Commission, RICO Act, all of this stuff. He's in open violation of all of that. But they're more wrong than him, so he can rock. So again, I bring all of this back to us because these black people are so crazy about this guy, but really what he's doing is exposing exactly what they are and what they've been for 241 years. They've been living off the back of the original inhabitants, the Moorish Americans, the imperial Muslims of the West, from the beginning. And they had to create a system to perpetually subsist in a parasitic nature without us realizing that. And it was all predicated upon us believing that we are from a foreign nationality. But the foreign nationality that we're foreign to is the citizens that they created with the illegal act of Congress when they established the District of Columbia. And then established that the District of Columbia can have its own citizens. So then what the District of Columbia did was replace its citizens with the United States citizens. You understand what I'm saying? Meaning that they extended their jurisdiction illegally because the people that they were giving it to already had an American nationality. So they got them to accept zip codes and shit like that, and now they all under the jurisdiction. You see? Now they're all citizens of the United States citizens. But we're Americans. We had a nationality before this. And according to the War Department, anybody that had a nationality that was subject to a foreign power prior to the establishment of the colony is an American. But in our language, we call it Americanos, right? So before we close out, I wanted to read this out. Get this other book called Islam and the West, the Moriscos, right? By Anwar G. Chechny. Great book. There's another one you could get. Again, and everything that they have been doing was based upon them propelling and trying to free themselves. And we talk about abolitionists, we talk about Caucasian people that had a little money based upon their Freemasonic connections through the Sons of Liberty, through the Daughters of the American Revolution, through the Knights of Pythias, through the Order of Jesters or whatever they in. And then from that, they funded privateers, corsairs, to go over there and free some of their people or pay the ransom to the bays and all of that we had, both over there and over here. You understand what I'm saying? So in that, when they talk about Christian slave narratives or Christian captive narratives, this is all the stories about the white slave that they've been hiding from you for all of these years. These are the people that the Caucasian people who were actually these are the people who were put under the jurisdiction of those Moors who had got deposed and then eventually found a way to bleach out their lines by marrying into their family or killing off their heirs and then seizing the land and all that. What they doing right now. But essentially we have the ability now to do that because all those estates have been open because the Pope has forfeited, meaning that the war for us is over. It's been over. So we have the right now to go back to our own country, which is this place without Washington, D.C. So in that, they are now separating who is American, who is Americanos, and who is whatever other nationalities they are. So this, they always talk about Muhammad. Another book you could get is called Nationality and Status Under International Law. This was done by the Cambridge House, but published by Cambridge House, but it's edited by a chick named Alice Edwards and Laura Van Was, right? Yeah. So here we go. This is from what they call the third prophecy of Muhammad. The third prophecy is attributed to Muhammad himself and may have formed the basis for other prophecies. It is related that Muhammad asked about the end of the world and what would happen thereafter. To his community, Muhammad, that the world will come to an end when most perverse people and the worst people appear at a time when his part of the community will still be in an island situated in the extreme west, which is called Al-Andalusia. The people of his community will be the last of its inhabitants. All calamities will befall them because of their neglect of the righteous law and their worldliness, neglecting prayers, indulging in luxury. The minors among them do not respect the elderly, nor do the elderly have compassion for the minors. Injustices and false oaths abound them. Merchants purchase and sell usury and deceit and covet properties. These and other evil things will manifest, and God will subject them to a people worse than they. And they will be tormented, cruel governors who will rule over them. Their property will be confiscated for no reason. They will be captive and subject to the killing and conversion, and will worship images and idols. They will be obligated to eat bacon and will endure other oppressions to the point of hopelessness and despair. God will punish their sins, but he will also have pity on them and will forgive them when those evils are eradicated and when they return to the practice of their religious law. The cruelty imposed will be so intense that the angels will become vexed, and they will appear before the Almighty, calling his attention to their plight. It is then that God, the Avenger, will send someone to rescue them from their miserable condition. This will take place when the new year falls on a Saturday. God will then send the sign consisting of clouds of birds, 2 of which will represent the angels of Gabriel and Michael. The first cloud of birds will be followed by the other birds of the earth to announce the coming of the king of the east and the west, who will take Andalusia. The conflict between Islam and Christianity will end with the return to the law of the Moors. There will be much cloud in that year, scarcity of water, trees bearing extra fruits, and other signs. So again, this is what they prophets saying. This is what their version of Muhammad is saying about us. And like I said, Andalusia is any place where we at, where the royal Muslims was situated in the extreme west. So again, when they tell you that you don't have no nationality and you don't have this and you don't have that, man, look to people who know law. Look to people who know true history. Look to people who understand who and what nationality, birthright, inheritance really is. Not just so-called Moors or melanated people. People who pass shit down to generation. Realize there's a reason why when black folks, they open a business, the shit will be called hyper-extent. But then when white folk open a business, it's like Steinberg and Sons. Like, there's a reason why we have certain protocols and why state law and things like that you got to pay extra bread up for, that you're going to be in debt to find out that once you get it, you can't even benefit from it because you haven't changed your individual mind state. So again, man, you want to holler at me, hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. Thank you, Queen, for holding me down and taping this thing. I've seen you taping this thing like that. And again, man, be yourself, man. If you see, again, man, if you see somebody striving to be elements of what you see yourself being, be yourself even harder. Because the more you're yourself, the harder it is for them to be you. And in the end, the fake will always be exposed. But I'm learning that in order to be original, the only way you can be original is to actually have a copy. So there's more than enough copies and stuff like that out there that everybody can get to. But we came from the era where it was about the originality. And I feel like that's the temple that we all need to start to accentuate and exemplify if we're going to get out of this present situation, to actually participate in things like group economics, international exchange between indigenous governments and things like that. So again, holler at me at houseofl@hotmail.com. Thank you, Queen, for holding me down. The answers is getting, Queen. We gotta go. Peace.